A Course in Miracles, when clearly understood, and when we dive into the Course in Miracles text, the principles, and the workbook for students, we learn a lot about inner energy in this world and what energy really means. We learn more about the power of mind. We also learn from the Course in Miracles how sometimes we have to let go. Yes, sometimes you have to let go of a situation that is causing you grief or something that's totally out of your control. Let's talk about spiritual power today, and let's talk about experiencing, maximizing your full potential. I'm going to mention how to do mindfulness meditation practice a little bit today. Now, keep in mind, I write from the principles of A Course in Miracles, but nowhere in the text or the lessons of A Course in Miracles does it bring up even the word mindfulness meditation. But there are a lot of lessons and principles in the Course in Miracles that we can use on our own behalf in prayer or meditation. So I'm going to touch on that today. Hey everyone, James Nussbaumer, and thanks for joining me in another episode of For a Better Life podcast. Today is Sunday, November 11th, 2018, and I'm so glad to be with you. In the beginning, when I started doing these podcasts, I would just be nervous like all get out. I would be nervous, and I had to learn to let go of that. Why would I be nervous? Nobody's looking at me. I'm not on video. You're just listening to me. I had to somehow let go of that nervousness. And then I did some research and found out that, even the most tremendous people in Hollywood that we've ever known, like, remember Johnny Carson? I heard that Johnny Carson had a little routine back in the dressing room before he came out, a little meditative session that he did for himself before he came out on stage to do his stand-up, routine in starting. And others, too. I just mentioned Johnny Carson because, I kind of grew up on Johnny Carson, and I miss him. He was just a great guy, wasn't he? So my point is sometimes we have to let go of things that just bind us and keep us chained. So with that said, let's move on and let's discuss a little bit about sometimes why it's important that you have to let go for the power of mind to help you move forward in life. Sometimes, like I'd said, that you just have to let go and then decide that the importance of learning is to accept the fact that you just don't know. What I mean by that is often this is where your inner energy sits. Now, keep in mind that energy is only of this world. There's a lot of talk about universal energy, and well, energy is really a physical thing. It's matter. Energy is something of this world that man has, but energy is of thought. We have it from either good thought or bad thought, depending on the thought that's going on. That creates that type of energy in us as humans. So let's don't be thinking that out there somewhere in the sky where we look up to the universe that there's all this energy battling each other. That's not the way it really works. We are thought. We are of the one mind of creation, which is God, pure thought. Thought. He extended his thought in the creation, and there we are here in this world. Now, that's another subject that we touch on about why we're in this world, and you'll find out more on that in the first book of my series called The Master of Everything, A Story of Mankind in the World of Illusion We Call Life. And then the sequel to that book called Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom, subtitle Lessons from A Course in Miracles. And the third book, I'm just so wonderfully thrilled with this third book, called And Then I Knew My Abundance. All three books are published by Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, a wonderful mainstream publisher who I have a great relationship with. And so far, book 4 is being edited right now as I speak to you, and so I'm thrilled with that too. I don't want to disclose the title on that yet because I just don't want to let the cat out of the bag. But I have many books ahead of me yet. And for those of you that know my story, know where my books were conceived and then born. And but that's not what this discussion is about today. So anyways, if you know me, then you know. And if you don't know me, I my first book and check it out and see what urged me within myself to become a writer and write these books that are touching the lives of people all over the world. Let me talk about some imprisoning chains that we have on us. First of all, but let me take a sip of my morning coffee because it's quite early in the morning. And I do these Sunday morning podcasts. Well, now because it's wintertime, November, coming close to wintertime, the sun is coming up later, so the sun's not quite up yet. But letting go of what chains you, what bounds you, what has you bound and shackled, letting go of those chains, I want to say, and what has you captive can quite successfully be achieved through regular mindfulness meditation practice. Mindfulness meditation is just a breathing exercise where you basically throw the material world. Well, let me rephrase that and say you let go of the material world. Since we're talking about you just have to let go, you let go of the material world and you go within yourself and you focus on the breathing. And then you just go with whatever comes to mind in a relaxed state. And I like to call it that you're returning to the alpha state. The alpha state is that beginning state. It's where all your creativity sits. And if meditation, properly exercised, properly practiced, and properly understood, gets you to that alpha state where all your creativity is just waiting for you to unleash it and let it go. Unchain it, I should say, in this sense. So I encourage that you learn to do mindfulness meditation. Now, if you're at my website right now listening to this podcast, because I have embedded this in a blog article at my website. So if you're there watching this, you'll see a woman sitting in a meditative state along a lake or a beach kind of thing with the sun rising in the morning. And it says, learn the 7-minute mindfulness meditation. So I urge you to take a look at that because it's a wonderful 7-minute mindfulness meditation. If you need a good mindfulness practice, I just love it. And if you're at YouTube, I'll have a link in the description box at YouTube that leads you to this blog article that this podcast will be embedded in. So you will be able to click on that and go right to my website, my safe website, by the way, and right to that article and see that image there that I'm talking about where you can learn about the mindfulness. And since we're on that subject, by the way, also too, you're also going to notice an image at my blog article of a cartoon animated character walking away from a ball and chain. In other words, he set himself free of the shackles and the ball and chain that had him imprisoned for all his life. And it will say here, it will say there more here on reaching your maximum potential. There's a free ebook there that I urge you to get with a video that goes with it that's very powerful on how a man had set him free from all that had him imprisoned and leading a very successful life now in the UK. So let's move on and talk about letting go on how all these people that become successful, like I just mentioned, Johnny Carson doing he was going through a letting go period behind stage in his dressing room before he'd come out and the curtain would open and there was Johnny Carson smiling. And so he had to go through his routine to let go of what was holding him back from nervousness, we can say, stage fright, we might call it. So let's talk about letting go. And have you ever known an individual who seems to always never seem to be nervous and always has the answers to everything, including how to fix your problems? This person seems to never have a reason to let go of anything because he's one of those, we might say, a know-it-all that knows the best solution for you and your problems, like I said. Well, we have all run into this know-it-all somewhere along the line until sooner or later. And by the way, I'm imaging some people in my mind already throughout my years of living that have come across to me that way. And I'm sure you're thinking of particular individuals too. But we all have run into this know-it-all, and sooner or later, someone who knows better reveals the know-it-all's expertise to be not so expert at all, and this know-it-all loses his power. You remember running into any situations like that? I'm sure you have. Well, in book 1 of the series that I'd already mentioned, called The Master of Everything, with a subtitle called The Story of Mankind in the World of Illusion We Call Life, in book 1, we really dive in here. And I mean, everything that I talk about, everything that we try to teach ourselves makes our inner power more and more difficult to truly see. What I mean by that is, in many cases, we end up finding that what we know is not the real knowledge that we thought we had. So sometimes we have to let go of what we think we know, but we really didn't. A lot of what we think we know, a lot of what we think we have knowledge on, comes from assumptions and projections. Assumptions, projections, basically the same thing. It's the ego in us, the ego-based mind, which is built on fear, doubt, judgment, criticism, and the like. Another sip of coffee, please. But that ego-based mind in us wants to think that it knows when it's assuming something or projecting something. And that's not the real knowledge, and that's where we're going to go to. But we sense this as well, and this can give us the inner energy just by letting go. And remember, I'm talking about energy is of this world. Energy is not in eternity. There is no energy in eternity. Energy is of the physical world, that we as humans, from our ego-based mind, based on right-mindedness or wrong-mindedness, and very simply, I explain that though in detail in my first book, the right-mindedness is still of the ego, but it's that part of us that senses something more, senses our eternal real self, senses our God essence source. The wrong-mindedness is the part of our ego that's always judging and condemning and fearing this and worrying that, regretting the past and fearing the future. Those kind of thoughts is the wrong-minded. But energy is of this world, and it comes from either one of those thoughts. You have the choice to create the energy you want from pure thoughts of your source, which I call God, or you can create energy from the wrong-mindedness of the ego that's not based on nothing but fear and doubt. But we sense this as well, and can give this inner energy, we can give this inner energy a way to work for us in this world. But if it's not the right energy that we want, then all we can do is let it go. We can get rid of the bad energy, which is man-made, by letting go. All energy is humanistically made. But the energy that you've created within your human body from pure thought connected to your source, God, and that is the source that makes you filled with bliss, makes you be truly in love with someone, makes you have wonderful relationships. That's the kind of energy, the human-made energy, that you want to hang on to and never let go of. But the other kind, where you're always doubting someone, for all of us who've been in a divorce situation before, we know how bad energy can come around then. Same thing. So that's the kind of energy we want to learn to let go. But we may also end up lacking inner energy and power of mind while making a show of strength that only fails us. However, what I'm trying to say is, can we gain knowledge from what is false? Can we gain knowledge from falsity and untruths? The fear and the doubt that we live by, the worry of the future, the regrets of our past, those kind of things are untruths that we need to let go of. Sure, we can learn off of our mistakes, and that's being right-mindedly. You know, I made these mistakes, but guess what? I'm moving on, and I'm gonna use this experience for a better life. A Course in Miracles gives us this profound spiritual metaphysical principle that will back me up here, and says, what stands between us and the power of God is our learning of the false and the ego's attempts to change truth into falsity. That's pretty powerful if you think about it. Think about all that assuming that we do that comes from the ego in us, all that projecting that we do. Isn't that our way of trying to to change truth into falsity, or or on the other hand, we could say trying to make what really is false into something that's true. But sometimes you have to let go. I mean, let go. I mean, let go. Let all the false in you go. Let all the falsity, all the untruths about you. Sometimes we have to just let that go and be glad that you are no longer bound and chained and shackled by it. When you let go of that imprisons you, this is your power of mind. And by thinking that, just sends chills up my spine, chills of happiness and bliss, to understand that the power of my mind is that simple. This is how you can learn not to imprison yourself by trying to be something you are not, and have a higher degree of inner energy while in this world. Remember, energy is of this world. So we create energy from our thought. God is our creator. Whatever term you want to use, like I said, is fine. And I say he because I use a masculine overtone. Use she if you would like. It doesn't matter. It's just a word. G-O-D is just letters in the alphabet, I like to say. It's the meaning behind the word. But our source is pure thought. And he extended that pure thought in the creation. So yes, I mean breaking free of the chains that imprison you and experiencing maximum potential by letting go of the bad energy that you only create within yourself from assuming too much and projecting things that you do not want in this world, but you project them out of fear and doubt. You project them out of regrets of your past or concerns and worries about your future. So, yes, can God learn to be something else? Well, that's a big question. How can God be anything different than what he is? All love, oneness, oneness. Can you describe the meaning of love? Isn't it total oneness? Total at oneness of mind. There's no conflict inside of love. There's no boundaries. There's no limits to love. There's no separation involved in real love. That is what God is. Real love has no conflict, has no limitations. It's not split apart. It's not divided in any way. Love is whole, W-H-O-L-E, wholeness of mind. When you are truly in love with another individual, your spouse, your fiance, whatever it is, your children, the same way, your grandchildren, and all of that, there's no boundaries in that love, is there? Sure, we may set some boundaries from our children, but for our children, only for their growing up. But that's another story, and that's not what we're about here. But I think you know what I'm saying about. So when you answer that truly you are given all power of mind by God to be yourself, you cannot learn to be powerless. In other words, if you just truly allow the power of mind of God's extension to you, of your Creator's extension to you, if you allow that power of mind to be your power of mind, you cannot otherwise be confused about who you are and how to achieve your goals in this world. Is there anything you taught yourself that you truly prefer to keep, say, in place of what you really are? What I mean, is this the way you wish to live? If you will live and learn by what A Course in Miracles calls the atonement. Excuse me as I take another sip of my morning coffee. If you will live and learn by the atonement, in other words, by being who you truly are, as your inner energy in this world, only then will you find your purpose of life, your function that unites you with all of creation. Only then will you feel whole with all of creation and be able to manifest the life that you want through that wholeness of mind. The atonement the Course in Miracles teaches us is the undoing of what never was. Fear, doubt, criticism, judgment. Those are the things that really aren't real. We made them up by our assumptions. The human body makes up these fears, doubts, assumptions, and projections, and judgments and criticisms by our assuming and by our projecting out of fear and doubt. You will know how to accept that sometimes you have to let go and escape forever from what you taught yourself to this point in your life. There's tremendous freedom in understanding that. With this lesson, I now understand a little story I'm going to explain to you about my friend Bill. Bill, more truly, and why he rarely, if ever, introduces himself as a doctor. My good friend Bill, that I had known ages ago, I've lost touch, but in the 90s, I spent a lot of time in Florida in the 1990s, and I played a lot of golf. And Bill was a doctor, and he was in my normal golfing group twice a week where we played. And Bill never introduced himself as a doctor. Well, let me explain. Excuse me. Bill is a foot doctor, a podiatrist, and has a successful podiatry clinic on the Gulf Coast of Florida, around the Tarpon Springs area of Florida, near Clearwater, St. Petersburg, kind of that area. Often I have witnessed Bill, who is always complete of inner energy, when asked by someone he just met, what does he do for work? And he would respond something like, I help people to feel more comfortable on their feet. Let's face it, when we first meet someone and after a little bit of casual conversation gets out of the way, don't we kind of say, well, what do you do? You know, and Bill would say, I help people to feel more comfortable on their feet. And I tell the whole story of my relationship with Bill in my first book, The Master of Everything. So if you haven't picked up that book, I hope that you will, and my others too. But almost always people would reply to Bill, so you must sell shoes, huh? Are you a shoe salesman? And so once I invited Bill, this is before, then I invited Bill to play golf in my usual group of guys, and then he became a regular in our group, with whom he was an unfamiliar guest there, but very welcomed. And so this time he explained further out of courtesy, because you know, when you're in a close-knit golfing group, a golf league, whatever you want to call it, there's a certain bond there where we get to know each other really deeply, to a deeper level than just casual acquaintances on the street. And that's what I've learned through the game of golf through my life, is I've got some very valued friendships. And for any of you that are listening to me who have ever played golf with me before, know what I mean by saying that, and you know that you are my friend and we have a bond together. But this time Bill explained further out of courtesy, saying that he said, he used the word ran, that he ran foot clinics where people of all ages with all kinds of foot problems would come there, and he and his staff would do their best to treat and correct these little problems they were having with their feet. So naturally, someone asked him if he was a doctor. Bill replied, Bill had a quite humble reply, and he said, yes, some years ago, I completed a doctoral degree in podiatry at Ohio State University. Being that I'm from Ohio, that's what Bill and I had in common, and we met there in Florida. So his answer was, well, yes, I do have a doctorate degree in podiatry that I earned from Ohio State University. So then he simply left it at that, and getting back to the golf match over a couple of bucks, over a few dollars, you know, that we play for in our grudge matches in this golf league. But my good friend Bill does not define himself as a doctor of podiatry, because it's not necessary for him to do so. Rather, Bill comes across as a person who enjoys helping others. Bill is what he is, and he's a very wonderful, happy individual to be around. And he extends that happiness to others, and others feel comfortable around Bill. Bill's medical training as a podiatrist, as a foot doctor, does not make him who or what he is, but his schooling was something, required of him in order to, of course, satisfy the worldly obligations and to expected for anyone who wishes to become a doctor and to develop expertise into fixing foot problems as a doctor. So he had to go through the necessary schooling and to get that degree, because that's what the world demands of us, and rightfully so. But this is all his doctor's degree means to him. And a foot doctor is not who Bill truly is. So I hope that makes sense about understanding the power within you. I also want to give you a suggested article at my website on how to attain inner peace. True inner peace. And you can go to jamesnussbaumer.com/attain inner peace. And you will find many articles at my website on that. By the way, I write personally all the articles. I've got hundreds of articles at my website that I personally write. So I hope that you'll check that out. And excuse me again, I'm going to take one more sip of coffee before I get ready to close here. But as I close, let me say that I hope that you will check out my mastermind challenge community, we're calling it, the mastermind group, which is a subscription only, paid subscription. It's a monthly thing where you and I, you the reader, and I the author, and all of us in the group, we bring our minds together for self-success and for a better life and a better world for yourself. And if that's not what you're wanting right now, you're just not into that kind of a thing, then I have a free version of my newsletter called the Everyday Miracles newsletter. And you can subscribe to that. And maybe in the future, you might be ready for the Mastermind Challenge. You might not ever. That's fine too. I'm just so appreciative for what I have now. And what I say, why I'm appreciative for what I have now, is because what I have now is you listening to me thus far in this podcast. And at least you're reading my blog. You're at my YouTube channel. You're somewhere listening to this. So that is enough for me. But my Mastermind Challenge has helped many, and I hope that you'll consider that. Also, keep in mind, if you're at my website, you'll notice that I refer other people's systems and products and things that help you out, self-help books, videos, you name it. Because even if you read all of my material, all of my blogs, all of my books, I don't claim to be an expert in areas where you may have a problem, such as maybe relationship issues or a dieting problem you're having, or maybe there's a financial matter that you are backed into a corner on, or whatever it might be. I refer people to other professionals that know how to handle and take care of your situation. So if you see anything there that may help you, know that I have thoroughly checked them out and that they are sound, and I back them. So with that being said, and here as I get ready to close now, I also want to say that please follow me on Twitter, please follow me on Facebook, and please, if you're at YouTube now, please click now, right now as you're listening to me, subscribe. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And as always, I hope you're thinking a lot about your own life and the natural beauty that you have inside. And that natural beauty, I'm going to say this in a different way from the way I usually do it, but thinking a lot about your own life is important. And the natural beauty that is within you, that natural beauty within you is your power of mind. Not your brain. The brain is of the body. The natural beauty in you is the power of the mind. The mind is the God essence of who you are. The mind is the extension of that thought of God who created you. It's the extension of your Creator's thought about you. That is what you are. You are thought. And when you understand to use the power of the mind, which is your beauty, your inward beauty, then you know how to create the right type of energy while you live in this world for an extremely wonderful and happy life. I hope that hit home for you. I hope this thought-provoking message you enjoyed and get something out of it, because that's the whole purpose of this, is to maybe help you let go of whatever seems to be bothering you, whatever it is that's holding you back in life from moving forward. I'm about run out of time. I appreciate your listening to me. And as always, until next time, God bless. James Nussbaumer signing off.